If you're just now joining us, we're going to start here as soon as I get through. Actually, there's probably too many to get through. So I am. Oh, ooh, good question here. I have lost my passion and motivation. How can I get it back? Well, hopefully you'll have it back in the next 60 to 75 minutes here. So I'm going to clear all the questions for now, and we're going to get rolling here, everybody. Thank you for your patience while we waited for a few people to, just make sure they had their software up to date and so forth. And I just want to officially welcome you to the Stop the Sabotage webinar. This is the first webinar I've ever done on this content, on this topic. And I think, from my experience, this is really what it all comes down to. There's no shortage of knowledge out there. Any one of you that have been in the business for more than probably about 96 hours, you've got the knowledge, most of the knowledge, the how-to information, at least you have access to it, that you'll ever need. So it's not knowing what to do. It's why don't we do what we know, right? We're going to talk about how to identify and eliminate those biggest fears, the conflicts, and the internal limiting beliefs, because those are the actual obstacles that people face. And that's what's going to hold people back. It's not all this other stuff that a lot of people think it is. And a lot of people spend their time going after and trying to fix. If you're trying to fix a problem that's not the problem, you're not going to get very far, right? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And for any of you that don't know, we've got a brand new Mary Kay training blog called pinkcaddiecoach.com. If you haven't been there, you can visit that. There's some warm chatter training available totally for free right now. It's like 4 hours worth of really deep, the psychology of successful warm chatter. All right, let's get moving. Congratulations on attending this webinar. I know there's all kinds of things that you could have done. And truth be told, I haven't really even reached the evening because I haven't slept. I've been, thinking about and putting together the slides for this webinar. And when I talk about and think about this content, I just get lit up so much. So right now I am absolutely working on, just passion for the content. There's definitely no sleep going on here. But here's what we're going to do on the webinar. During this little bit of time that we have together, I'll be talking fast. You can tell I'm already going fast because I feel like I only have, a little bit of time with you. And I want to teach you what I know to be true about why people, and specifically in Mary Kay, really sabotage themselves, the truth behind the sabotage, and how can you identify the actual problems internally. And most importantly, how can you erase the cause of the issues, such as perfectionism, procrastination, all of the rest of the fears? We're going to break down some of these issues like I've never broken it down before. So I think you're going to get a lot of value out of the depth. And there's not going to be a whole lot of how-to information. Actually, there's going to be none unless it just comes off the cuff, because it's not about the how-to. That's one of those mistaken targets that a lot of people are going after. It's not about that. It's about the reasons that we're holding ourselves back. So you are in the right place if, number one, you have internal challenges just like all of us do, right? The fears, the doubts, the limiting beliefs that are affecting your life and affecting your business. If you have those, awesome. That means you're human. It means your brain is working properly, right? A lot of people beat themselves up for having human problems, and I don't know. It's sometimes makes you go nuts, honestly, to see people that really beat themselves up for being human. So if you have all these things, great, you're in the right place. Number two, if you no longer want those issues to get in the way of your success. Now, you'll always have challenges and problems and anxieties and doubts, but they don't always have to get in your way. They don't always have to stop you. And then number three, if you're serious about your success and you're really willing to take action toward your dreams instead of just, throwing a wish in a bottle and throwing the bottle out at sea. And that's what most people are doing. They're consciously wishing for success, but they're not willing to do what it takes to be successful. So here's a great question for you. Are you interested in your dreams, or are you committed to your dreams. When you're committed to your dreams, nothing can stop you. You pre-decide that you'll be successful no matter what gets in your way. If you're interested in your dreams, then you're basically just asking for your dreams to be handed to you, but you haven't made the committed decision that you're going to do everything you can for as long as you need to in order to make it happen. So if you're interested, honestly, I can't help very much. Now would probably be a good time to exit this call, this webinar, right? But if you're committed, then stick around. Let's go. You're in the wrong place if you are looking for the magic bullet that so many people are looking for. If you're seeking this shortcut to success, I don't have it. I haven't found it. I'm not looking for it. I don't think it exists. And if you're not willing to jump into the ring and get into a fight for every last one of your goals, your dreams, your kids, if you're not willing to go for it, then success will always elude you. I haven't met a single person that got successful without any hardships that he or she had to fight through. At the end, I'll show you how to get an MP3 recording. A lot of people want the audio version of this so they can put it on their iPhone or iPod or computer or whatever and just listen to it over and over and over again. Put it on a CD, get it in your car. There will be things that you miss because that's just the nature of all learning. Even as you're watching it, there will be stuff for you to miss. So I would absolutely suggest you listen to the content over and over again to see what you can learn the second time around, right? So here's what I want to start with. I want to start with what's possible. At a grand level, it's absolutely possible to clear away your biggest internal blocks instead of just coping with them. You'll see one of the themes of this webinar will be clearing versus coping. Most people are coping with their problems in life, and I don't believe anybody was created on this planet to cope through life. I believe we were created on this planet to do something magical, to do something significant, to make a difference, to leave a mark. We were not here to cope with our issues as though God created you as a test project, right? Like he left something out of you, just to see you flounder around. I don't believe that about anybody. So you're not here to cope with anything. You're here to clear away whatever human problems you've collected along the way, and let's get after it. Let's create the magical life that you can. Now, this change can be relatively quick as long as you have the right mindset. Now, I say relatively because, something that took 10 years to create or 40 years to create, you might get rid of it or you might get a really good handle on it in 6 months. Relatively speaking, 6 months versus 10 years is incredibly fast. But most people are expecting it to be an overnight change that they never have to nurture. It's like you just plant the flowers, you expect them to immediately pop up, and you never have to water them or make sure the sun gets to them. It's not going to happen that way. It's just totally, completely ridiculous. So you're setting yourself up to fail from the get-go. But when you have the right mindset, you can absolutely make quick changes. And when you get rid of these behaviors, when you get a better handle on the patterns, the success will follow in your business as a byproduct of the internal work that you're going to do. But you've got to be willing to take action, and you've got to have that inside-out approach, right? Now, let me just tell you a couple stories of some people, just to make this a little bit more concrete, people in Mary Kay that have made some of these shifts, just to let you know, some of the things that people have done when they've made when they've made some of these changes and when they've done some of this work. So Antonella is a director out of New York, and she said once she got rid of perfectionism, her income tripled immediately. It was an immediate shift. I'm sure most of you on the line would be in for an immediate tripling of the income. And Koti from Texas says that about 3 months after she was making $2,000 in production, her business exploded. She brought 80 new team members in. She had over $28,000 in production in a single month. But here's what I love. Plus, my relationship with my husband and children have been incredibly better as I've found balance in my life. And she's the one that capitalized balance, not me. I found balance in my life. That's what it's really about. It's not about the numbers, although the numbers are cute and sexy. It's really about living life with balance and joy. And I love, this was like an afterthought. Oh yeah, I got into my Cadillac. But that's not what she was excited about. I mean, she was excited about finding the balance. And here's another one from Gigi. So proud of Gigi. She says, my confidence has grown. I've increased my yearly retail by $3,000. This is what I love, this next piece. I've paid off 8 credit cards, and I think it's actually more than that now since she sent this to me. And for the first time in my 25-year Mary Kay career, she has 5 active team members. So when you do this work and when you make some of these shifts, your business can absolutely improve, maybe even explode if you have the right mindset, if you want to take action. Now, here's the problem, the specific problem in Mary Kay that I've experienced over the last 8 years that I've been doing this work in the Mary Kay pink bubble, is that the vast majority of consultants and directors simply don't have the business that they had planned on or the business that they had hoped for. Now, I'm not trying to burst anybody's bubble. That's a sad reality, but it's the truth. And it's a sad reality for every business across the board. This is not a Mary Kay problem. But the reality is that most of them are chasing the wrong issues in order to try to fix, what they want to improve. They're actually chasing the wrong problems. So they're constantly in search of the right recruiting scripts or the hostess programs or the time management systems or the tracking forms or the way to handle objections or the secrets of motivating other people to get into action or getting them to show up at your meetings or to make calls or what have you. That's what they're looking for. But what happens is because those are misplaced targets, all it does is lead to more frustration, more overwhelm, increased anxiety, more doubt, actually lower self-esteem, more stress, more financial worries, more strained relationships, disappointment in yourself. I mean, just misery on so many different levels. And it doesn't have to be that way. Mary Kay Ash did not have a vision to create a company that would induce stress for people. So this is not a Mary Kay problem. Mary Kay is nothing more than an opportunity. The problem is in the human condition. The problem is the way that we've been programmed. The problem is not in the opportunity. The problem is how do we take advantage or not take advantage of the opportunity. There's no difference in the Mary Kay that anybody across the globe has access to. The only difference is how do certain people approach their opportunity called Mary Kay while other people approach their opportunity differently. So that's what we're going to look at today is let's get into those actual problems. Now, many of you know so many of these things. I mean, the common forms of sabotage are procrastination and perfectionism and fear of failure and overwhelm and fear of rejection and time management problems, creative avoidance, the fear of success. We're going to go into detail around most of those. But a lot of times we have our own favorite way to sabotage ourselves. But here's what I've found that most consultants and directors just want to move through so they can get to. In other words, most consultants and directors, they just want to have control over their emotions. I've been asking this question for 8 years. What is it that you ultimately want? What do you ultimately want? What do you ultimately want? And how can you get there? And these are some of the most common responses. You just want control of your emotions because it is an emotional game. You want to be able to release the brake. So many people feel like they're riding with the parking brake on so that you can just go with freedom, right? You want to be motivated to work your business so you don't get up and you feel depressed or miserable or whatever. You want to see the fears go away, absolutely. You want that confidence and the clarity of what to do and specifically what to say. A lot of people don't have clarity of the game plan and it really holds them back. But you know what? We just want it to be fun and simple. If it's not fun and simple, what's the point? And the bottom line is this is a business opportunity. So you want to make money, right? You really want to make money, but you want to do it without all the stress or without the struggle or without the inconsistency from 1 month to the next. And you can absolutely do that if you have the right mindset, if you have the right guidance, and if you put your target where it needs to be. So again, it's completely possible to clear your fears away other than coping with them, but not when you're traveling upstream. Most people are going against the power of their habits, their identities, their values, their beliefs, their drivers. It looks like this. It looks like you're trying to go against the current. When all of your patterns, all of your beliefs, all of your motivation seems to be pulling you in the other direction, you're trying to go upstream. So you really have two choices. You can either fight against the current and keep doing what's not working, or you can change the current. And that's what I get excited about. How about we change the current internally, right? Instead of just trying to swim against the current. I love this analogy. What it's kind of like is, imagine you're in a boat and you're trying to drive this boat out of the harbor, right? You get in, you went to boat driving school, you've practiced, you've rehearsed, you've got all these affirmations about I'm a great boat driver, and the sea is going to be calm so I can drive my boat. You got all that, you're mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally prepared. You get into the boat, but even though you're doing all the right things, you're just not going anywhere. And that's where a lot of people are, and they don't understand why it's not working for them. And here's why it's not working for them: because unbeknownst to them, under the sea, there's an anchor. And that anchor's big. And it doesn't matter how good you are at driving boats, you can't uproot that anchor. And most people don't know there's an anchor. They don't know where the anchor is. And so they certainly can't do anything about the anchor if it's not even in their awareness. So that's where most people are. They're actually really good at driving the boat, but they just can't get it out because they can't get rid of the anchor. Here's the good news. As soon as you get rid of the anchor, you don't even have to be that good at driving a boat. The current will take you out of the harbor. You can start paddling. You can get some oars. You can just put your hands over the side and start swimming. You'll get out of the anchor. You get out of the harbor once you release the anchor, even if you're not that good at driving boats. Here's another analogy that I love. Most of us have probably seen the iceberg analogy, where the majority of the iceberg is underwater. As it relates to your business and the topic of this call, it's your habits and your patterns are the conscious things that most people are focusing on, and that's the above water stuff. The below water stuff are your beliefs, your identities, your drivers, and that's what's actually running the show. That's what's controlling the ship. So would you rather try to play above surface with the 5 to 10% of your power, or would you rather play below surface and get this going correctly? Now, I want to share with you how these two surface, different levels of the surface, the below surface and the above surface, actually work together, because they work together like magnets, right? So you can see that the red and the blue are touching the opposite charge. So the red's attracted to the blue and the blue is attracted to the red below. It's If you imagine that, one of these magnets are your beliefs, identities, and drivers, the below surface stuff. The other magnet is your habits and patterns, the above surface stuff. They're magnetically drawn to each other. But here's what people are doing. People are only focusing on the right side of this picture. They're only trying to change their habits or their patterns. They're trying to change their behavior. So what they're doing is flipping that magnet around to where now the blue and the blue are together and the red are together. So in other words, they flipped the behavior side, they flipped to the right side of the magnet, but they didn't do any changes below surface. They didn't change any of their beliefs, their identities, or their drivers. All they did is try to change their habits and their patterns. And if you've ever seen what happens when two magnets get together and they have the exact same charge, they don't attract to each other. They actually repel against each other. So here's what that means. When you try to change your habits, but you have not changed your beliefs and identities and drivers below the surface, your habits can't stick. They cannot stick. And if you've ever literally tried to put two magnets together with the same charge, it's hard. It takes a lot of effort. They don't want to go together. And you can put all of your energy into these magnets. I'm doing this right now as I'm talking. And if it's appropriate for wherever you are right now, do this. Imagine you've got these magnets and try to pull them, push them together. Use your force, use your willpower to push them together. It won't work. And if by magic you make them touch, they will repel off of each other immediately. That's what so many people are stuck with when they're trying to change their habits, but they haven't made the deeper internal shifts that will allow those habit behavioral changes to stick. So what that leads to is constant struggle. It leads to this start-stop energy. It leads to a bunch of frustration. And again, it doesn't have to be that way. So before I go any deeper, I want to give you just a little bit of background on me. This is me and my amazing family. I'm a father and my husband first. I'm a speaker and a coach second. My wife's name is Sybil. We're going to celebrate our 15th anniversary here in a few weeks. My children, Exley is in the front, McKenna's in the middle there. That's why I live right there. That picture is why I live. But when I was 13 years old, I was hit by I was involved in a hit and run accident by my next door neighbor. Actually hit me when I was riding my bike doing 50 miles an hour. I tried to avoid getting hit by one car, pulled out in front of him, got hit by him doing 50 miles an hour. And by all the details of the accident, there's no way I should have survived. But I did. I guess I wasn't done here, right? And so my whole life changed that day when I was 13 years old. I realized that no matter where we are, we're not promised our next breath. And I started to see life through a mortal set of lenses. And I made a promise to myself that day. And many of you have made a very similar promise, if not the same promise. I made a promise to myself that since I only have one shot on this planet, I'm going to give it everything I have. And I will not allow myself to settle for a life of mediocrity, to settle on my dreams, to settle for a life of less, a life of restriction, because I don't know when it's all going to be taken away from me. I don't know when my last breath is going to be. I almost had it when I wasn't expecting it. So I made that promise to myself that I will get into a good fight for every last one of my goals and dreams till I die. And then for the next 20 years, I didn't get hardly any of my goals and dreams, right? Even though I had made this promise to myself. So I had made the conscious willpower infused decision, but it still wasn't working for me. And then in 2005, I had a gigantic shift. I was at a seminar. I went through this amazing breakthrough where somebody taught me a lot of what I'm teaching you now about the beliefs that reside below the surface. And I finally realized, I learned why I was holding myself back my whole life from success. I was actually afraid of success, on top of being afraid of failing, on top of being afraid of being rejected, on top of always seeking other people's approval, on top of all this sabotage. I mean, I was a mess inside because I had the talent, I had the willpower, I had the work ethic, but I didn't have the results because something wasn't working in my life. So I had a major breakthrough in 2005. I came back. Nobody really even recognized who I was. Everybody was like, what in the world happened to you? Is that legal? And how do I get some of that? So I basically, started studying this whole world of the unconscious mind and our belief systems and our emotions and how this all works. And in 2006, I did an event that was specifically for athletes, but about 25 Mary Kay ladies showed up. They skipped their unit meeting that day, came to my event. They came to me afterwards and said, will you teach us some of this stuff too? Because it applies to us too. And I said, absolutely not. There is no way I am going to teach a bunch of women how to sell lipstick. Um, you know, I don't know that I'm proud of that answer now, but it's the truth. I said no. A couple months later, they emailed me back. I wasn't going very far in my brand new business, so I said, yeah, I'll go do it. It might be fun. I went there. I fell in love. I mean, all of you know what it's like to be in that energy. And here's what I love about Mary Kay. You give a damn. You want more out of life. You have a hunger. You have a thirst for more. And that's what I love. I love people who are willing to join a business, who are willing to show up at trainings, who are willing to get on a plane and fly and work on themselves, who are willing to face all of their challenges and demons and faults and fears, and who are willing to keep getting up, all in the name of wanting more out of life. That's why I fell in love with Mary Kay, and I honor each and every one of you who are fighting that fight. I don't care where you are in your life. I don't care where you are in your business. I'm not saying I don't care about you, but what I'm saying is I don't care about what's in your previous chapters. What I care about is, do you have the resolve and the determination and the commitment to take charge of your pens and intentionally write your future chapters? That's what ultimately matters. My great friend and mentor says, your past may be checkered, but your future is spotless. That's what I care about, and that's what I applaud each and every one of you for. So that's how I got involved in Mary Kay. Here I am 8 years later. I've got pink websites, pink business cards, the pink Caddie coach. It's crazy. If anybody would have told me this, 9 years ago, they would have probably had a fight on their hands. But that's how I got involved in all of this world. And so I've been, learning the Mary Kay lingo, but the Mary Kay mindset for a long, long time. And I want to tell you a story that has really shaped the last 2.5 years of my life. Many of you know that my dad was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in September of 2010. And he gave me that call. My whole world shook. I was mad at everybody. I was sad. I was crying. I was scared. I didn't know what to think. And my dad ended up coming down and living with us for his last 80 days. And as it got close to the end and he gave up the will to live and he just wanted to die, the nurses put him on all kinds of, big medication, the hospice nurses, because he just wanted to be medicated until he died. And when I knew it was really close, I called the nurse and I said, you did a good job. My dad can't feel anything, but he's also not my dad. And I said, I'm not complete. And I said, I just want one more conversation with that man so I can tell him what he meant to me. So I can tell him what kind of father he was. So I can tell him what my friends think about him. And so they allowed me to take the pain patches off. I mean, I probably would have done it anyway. But I had one final chat with my dad. When I knew it was at the end, it was about a 45-minute talk. I held his hand the whole time, and we were done with this talk. I said, Dad, how can I live your legacy going forward when you're gone? And he said, Shawnee, he shook his head like I'd asked a silly question. He said, Shawnee, just be who you can be, do what you can do, and live a good life. And I felt like he had given me this torch of wisdom for me to pass on. And, that's really what it's about. Just be who you can be, do what you can do, and live a good life. And that's my license plate down there at the bottom. And it's just a reminder of my dad's message and his energy. And I think that's what this life is all about. I mean, his like dying wisdom was so profound. Because if we don't enjoy this life, if we don't just give it a good shot, if we don't just, give ourselves permission to be who we are, give ourselves permission to just take a risk and go for it and just do whatever we can do, but ultimately be here and leave a mark and just, live and leave a legacy, then what's the point, right? So that's who I am. And I've been through this journey of limiting beliefs, and I know what that's like. So here's why I'm here today. I'm here today because I know you're somebody who's serious about your success, as well as helping a lot of people on this journey. Otherwise, I'm sure you wouldn't have showed up to this webinar. And again, I honor you for that. My purpose is to hold a space big enough for you to take everything you have and bet it all on yourself. Do not ever forget that everything you need is inside of you. But most people bet against themselves. Most people are so harsh on themselves. Most people are so critical of themselves that they don't give themselves a fighting chance. You've got to fight on your own team. Don't fight against yourself. You've got to fight for your dreams, right? So I want you to bet everything you have on yourself because that's where the solution lies. And you got to let go of all these inner game obstacles. It really, the only purpose they serve is to make life and make business and make relationships and make happiness more difficult for us. That's what these inner game obstacles do. So they don't belong and they're not a part of us. But I know that each and every one of us on this line, we want to play full out no matter what. We want to go for it. And I'm on a mission of freedom and empowerment because I know what it's like to live under the restraints of the I'm not good enough and the doubts and the fears and the will it ever happen for me's. I know that. I lived 26 and a half years of my life in that mental self-imposed prison. And I also know what it feels like to shift everything from the inside out. And I want everybody to feel that. I'm getting goosebumps right now, just, even thinking about that. That's what I want each and every one of us to feel is the freedom and the empowerment and to break the restrictions from ourselves. And these are the restrictions, all these sabotaging patterns that we already talked about. I like to give it to you in a tree analogy. So imagine this is the sabotage tree. We've got all of these behaviors and habits and all the sabotage stuff that most of us are trying to work on. Those are like the leaves of the tree. So most people are trying to prune the leaves of the tree. But what you have to understand is each one of those leaves are growing from branches, and those branches are like the drivers internally. So even if you cut all the leaves off, if the branches stay there, the leaves are just going to grow back. But let's say you go in and you cut off the branches, all the branches are attached to a tree trunk. And that's like our internal identities of who we are. Yet even if you go in and get rid of the tree trunk, if you cut it at the bottom, but you don't do anything about the roots, which are our beliefs, it's all going to grow back. So what I'm saying is when you focus on all of the above surface how-to stuff, you're missing the roots and everything will just come back. So you're not actually going to get much traction whatsoever. So let me explain to you how this all works sequentially. This is how these all line up and build off of each other. Most of our beliefs, and let me take a step back and say, what is a belief? A belief is nothing more than a repeated thought. That's all a belief is. It's a thought that we've heard so much and we have a lot of evidence for that we just think it's true. We hold on to it as though it's true because truth internally is nothing more than a story plus evidence. If you have a story and you have evidence to prove that story, then that feels like truth. So we feel like our beliefs are true, but all they are is stories that were started once upon a time. And it's usually the deeper stories are usually started between the ages of 0 and 6. We call that the imprint period because we live in this phase of blind belief. We don't know anything about this world. We don't have any sort of frame of reference to compare our situation against. We just think this is the way the world works, right? So everything that happens to us, everything that crosses our path, we just think that's the way it is. And so we form all of these stories when we're really young, when we're toddlers, and we're trying to figure out how the world works. Stuff happens to us. And when things happen to us, we have to make a meaning about it. And so that's the beginning of a story. That's just the way it works. And when the events that happen to us have any kind of pain associated to it or embarrassments or anything negative, we will usually form a negative belief about ourselves to justify what we just experienced. So, like if you have a bunch of kids that laugh at you in the playground, one of the beliefs that a lot of people create is, well, I must not be good enough. Otherwise, people wouldn't be laughing at me. Now, of course, that's not a feel good belief, but you don't know any better when you're young. And it makes sense that that's why people would be laughing at you because, you're just not good enough or you don't look like the other kids or you don't belong or whatever. So these stories get started. When we're young, they're nothing more than stories. But pretty soon, as we collect evidence and as we go on this little search to support this story, then they start to form our identities. And very early on in our life, we've already decided who we are. Are we the person that is outgoing and we make everybody laugh? Or are we the person that's really shy and we hold back and we're that wallflower? I mean, you could see kids' identities show up very early in life. So we've decided who we are and we're starting to create these layers of protection based on our beliefs. So we have some limiting belief, and same thing works for empowering beliefs, but we're going to mostly talk about limiting beliefs. So we have this limiting belief, and then we form these layers of protection because we always want to protect ourselves from getting hurt again. And because we've got all these identities and all these experiences that we're going through in life, then we start to form drivers. And drivers means basically how are we driven to respond? And the definitions of pain and pleasure and right and wrong are two of the most powerful factors in how we choose to respond. So if we've decided that a certain activity is wrong or a certain activity is painful, we will avoid that activity. We will always seek to avoid pain and experience pleasure. That's just what we're always going to be out for. And we're always going to seek right and avoid wrong, right? So that's how the drivers get together and start forming our behaviors and our decisions and also what's important to us. Our values. What is that's important to us in life? You might have experiences where your parents split up and it becomes really really important to have somebody stay with you by your side and you want their physical presence as often as you possibly can because you don't want them to leave. If you've experienced abandonment or something, that's unique to you based on your experience where not everybody has that value of somebody actually being right there physically in your presence, right? So you've got all these drivers now, and then what happens is our behaviors are just basically responses to all of these three ingredients. It's how we respond to all of these things that are now going on. And it's sort of like the house keeps getting built higher and higher and higher and higher. So there's a lot of stuff going on here. This isn't just a simple, a reactionary process. There's a lot of time involved. There's tons of experiences involved. And so what happens is we have these behaviors. Now, these behaviors are not the problem. The behaviors that we create are actually solutions to try to cope with and cover up the problems that started earlier in our lives. So all of our sabotaging habits, which is nothing more than a repeated behavior, all of these sabotaging habits are actually responses and reactions to the internal problems. And that's a huge piece, because if you're trying to solve problems that aren't actually problems, that's one of the reasons it's so difficult to get rid of the perfectionism, because you created your perfectionism in response to your beliefs, identities, and drivers. Perfectionism was created last. It's in response to all of those things. So if you go in and try to change your perfectionism without first changing all of those things, it's not going to make sense. It's like flipping that magnet over and not trying to figure out how come they won't stick together, because you didn't deal with the cause, you didn't deal with the roots. You just dealt with your responsive behavior. So that's what most people are left with, is all these habits. Now, how do we fix this stuff? Right? You've got 4 options here. If you only had 4 options, you can probably tell by the way I'm sort of directing us where we would go. It certainly wouldn't be just focusing on the behaviors. It wouldn't just be focusing on the drivers, and it wouldn't only be focusing on our identities. Hopefully you're enjoying all my little snazzy movements here and effects. We've got to go after the beliefs. We've got to go after the roots of the issue. And if you're willing to do that, there's no tree that you can't cut down, right? If you're not willing to do that, then then you're probably not ever going to cut down any tree, and you're not ever going to truly get rid of some of the habits. Or if you do, with magic or super, high level of willpower, get rid of some of those habits, they'll all just keep coming back because you didn't get rid of the roots, right? So let me break this down into some of the concrete examples that you deal with in your business all the time. Let's talk about fears in general. All fears are mislabeled, meaning nobody is afraid of the actual activity, although that's what most people are talking about. So when you say you have a fear of warm chatting, you're saying you have a fear of the activity of talking to people, and that's a lie. When you say you're afraid of making phone calls, that's a lie. When you say you're afraid of speaking, that's a lie. When people say they're afraid of heights, that's a lie. When they're afraid of flying, that's a lie. Nobody's afraid of flying. People are afraid of dying in a plane crash. And flying makes them think that they might die. Nobody's afraid of heights. People are afraid of falling from high places. And that's different, because those are 2 separate targets. So I don't want you to put the target on a fear when that's not actually the problem. What we're afraid of is the emotional outcome of the activity, not the activity itself. And this is huge, to create this distinction and actually challenge the fear where it lives, instead of just throwing. It's like, if you've got a fire on the 4th floor of your building, I suggest you send the fire department to the 4th floor. Don't send them to any one of the other of the floors, because that's not where the fire is. Send them to the 4th floor. Send them where the fire is. Send them where the problem actually resides. So don't focus on the activity when nobody's afraid of the activity. So you basically have 2 choices. Your choice is, you can avoid the activity that you think is the problem. So you can avoid warm chatting. That won't help your business. You can avoid making phone calls. Good luck with that strategy. You can avoid speaking to people. That's not going to get you anywhere. Or you can remove the emotional risk. That's how to make true, long-lasting change, is we remove the fear of the emotional outcome, and then there's nothing to risk anymore. Hopefully this is making a lot of sense. I'm going to go deeper into that, but don't do that. Actually, what? I went a little bit further ahead. Let me kind of have a little drama here, right? Don't do that one. Unless you just want to keep wrestling with the problems, then choose that one. Choose the coping mechanism and try to drown out your fears and try to avoid the catalysts. Or you can actually remove the emotional trigger. You can remove the emotional outcome. So let's get even more specific, and let's look at how specifically fear of failure and fear of rejection gets created and perpetuated in our life. Now, I'm putting them both together because they're both judgments of an event, right? We have an event, and let's take the event of rejection. I like that one. I love this picture. I love this picture. Look at that poor guy's face. And I know so many of us can totally relate to being that poor guy. Like, you feel like when people say no to you, they're just unleashing all of this pain and irritation and all of this negativity on you. And look at this poor guy. This is my favorite part. Look, he's crying. If you look deeper, he's crying. And that's really how so many of us experience rejection, as though people are yelling at us, as though they are angry with us, right? And we end up feeling like this poor guy looks. But it's just a judgment. It's the judgment of an event. That's all it is. So we have an event that happens. We'll just say in this case, somebody tells us no, or we imagine somebody telling us no. Then we judge the event. So we'll pretend that it means that we just got rejected, or that it means that we just failed, right? That's our judgment that we put on it. And then because of that judgment that we put on it, head talk shows up. That's when we start saying things to ourselves like, I'll never succeed. I can't win at this game. People don't like me. I'm not as good as so and so. That's the head talk that shows up when you just continually beat yourself up. But that head talk is a function of the judgment first. If you don't judge an event as negative, like rejection or failure, you can't create negative head talk. So I want you to see that this is actually a multi-step process that happens so that we can identify the steps and get rid of the actual problem and look at where do we control this stuff. After you start beating yourself up and you start telling your stories about all this, you're going to create all these negative feelings. You're going to feel embarrassed. You're going to feel sad. You're going to feel hurt. You're going to feel hopeless. You're going to feel helpless. You're going to feel dejected, right? You're just going to feel this overall negativity. But all of these three things are linked. Now, when you have this head talk going on, when you've got these emotions going on, what kind of behaviors are you going to take? You're certainly not going to charge and go for it anyway. Most of you aren't, at least most of us won't. I won't. If I feel all that negativity, what I do and what most human beings do is we retreat. We don't want to feel that negativity. We don't want to feel that stuff. Nobody likes to feel hopeless. Nobody likes to feel like a victim. So we run. We search for avoidance. How can we pretend that we're being productive by avoiding the pain? We resist, and this is where the sabotage is actually created. So I want you to see that this is a multi-step process, and the sabotage is created at the end of the process. So don't play there. Don't go there. The big issue is, before I get to that, you don't control this event, but you absolutely control the judgment that you place on the event. Now, where do those judgments come? Because most of us don't consciously create the judgments. Those judgments come from our beliefs. We make those judgments with our beliefs. So the beliefs determine the knee-jerk judgments, the seemingly automatic judgments that we create. Those are actually under our control. We control them so much it doesn't even feel like we control them anymore, but they're being controlled with our beliefs. So I just want you to see how all of these things fit together. I want to break all of this apart and dissect it so we can focus on the real issue and put the target where the target belongs. Now, this is really what we've got to look at. We've got to look at the emotions that are being created, because remember, what we're afraid of is the emotional upset. We're afraid of feeling dejected and hopeless and hurt. So imagine this. If you're afraid of feeling that way, you're going to try to avoid that at all costs. If any of you own cats, or if you've seen a cat that, somebody tries to get the cat into the cat carrier, when the cat knows, every time they go to the carrier, they go to the vet and get a shot or something. Watch what happens when a cat knows they're about to go somewhere they don't want to go. I mean, they become wild, right? They're like, all the claws come out, the arms and the legs get all sprawled out, and it's tough to put a cat in that cat carrier because it's afraid of what it's going to experience, right? And, and sometimes they will hold on with everything they have, and they'll do everything they can to try to avoid all of that pain. And you know what this is? This is called procrastination. That's how we do it. We procrastinate because there's something we don't want to experience. We don't want to experience the actual journey because we don't like doing the activities, or we don't want to experience the outcome of doing the activities. But as long as there's something negative for us to experience, the human brain will resist. So there's not a procrastination gene that any of us have. This is not like something you can just reach in and remove. This is a natural human response to pain. This is a natural human response to anything negative that you don't want to experience anymore. So, would you rather wrestle with this procrastination, or would you rather remove the thing that you're afraid of? Right? Let's remove the thing that we're afraid of. So that's really what fear of rejection, fear of failure, and procrastination is all about. I want you to see how they feed off of each other and how they go together, and when we can dissect them, I want you to see how it all can be pulled apart so that we can identify the piece that we really got to look at. Now let's talk about perfectionism, because it's a little bit of a different animal. Here's my experience of perfectionism. Perfectionism is caused when you have an unhealthy connection between your self-worth and your performance. And this is huge. This is huge. I could go on for 5 hours on this piece. I'll try not to. I'll try to keep it to 4.5. But this is gigantic. And the bottom line is, because of the way we're raised in society, because of the way we're programmed, because of the way we're parented, because of what we see on TV, we are usually programmed to believe that when we are performing well, we have a high self-worth. People want to be around us. We get rewarded, right? When we are performing well, we're getting recognized, we're getting acknowledged. We are programmed to believe that we feel good when we perform better. And that is such a dangerous combination, because the opposite is true. If that's true, then when we're not performing well, that means we should not feel good about ourselves. Our self-esteem and our self-worth, our value internally, is mistakenly connected to our performance and our achievements. And they are absolutely not the same thing. Your self-worth is predetermined by your creator. Your God created you, and you're valuable because of that, period. No matter what you do, you have value as a human being. You have value on this planet because you're here. Not because you're driving a car, not because you have money, not because of anything conditional. You have value, period. Your self-worth is not conditional upon anything, but we're programmed this way, especially with sports. If any of you have been in a sport where you've gotten judged, like cheerleading or ice skating or gymnastics, right? Or any kind of sport where you give it all you've got and somebody judges you, then you almost inherently, undoubtedly have a connection between your happiness, your fulfillment, and whether you performed well or not. So when we have this connection between performance and self-worth, obviously we want to feel better about ourselves. And the only way that we think we can feel better about ourselves is to be perfect in our performance. So we have this unhealthy connection toward perfection because we're really seeking our self-worth. So the actual problem here is that we have conditional self-worth. We've been led to believe, or we've picked up along the way, that we are only valuable if we perform at a high level. That's the actual problem. As soon as you give yourself that self-worth, the perfectionism can't live anymore because it's based on this formula. If you remove the formula, you have no need for perfectionism anymore. But a lot of people say, well, my perfectionism is because I just really want to do well. Yeah, that's great. That sounds good. But if it's an unhealthy needing to do well, then I don't care how you try to justify it. It's unhealthy. Now, I don't want to take away that piece of you that really wants to be great. That piece of you that wants to achieve at a high level. So I want to remove the perfectionism, but I want you to keep that high level of desire for performance. I just don't want you to have that negative expectation and that negative attachment to them, right? Now, as you could probably tell, that low self-worth is because of your beliefs. So that's how beliefs fit into this equation too. So what I was saying is I don't want you to get rid of that desire to achieve at a high level. I just want you to get rid of your perfectionism. But you can hold on to your excellencism, right? There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with saying, today I'm going to be excellent. I'm going to be an excellencist. I want you to remove the word perfectionist from your vocabulary, and I want you to start talking about being an excellencist, not a perfectionist. I want you to have excellencism, not perfectionism, because it's different. Most of us don't have the same kind of energy on the word excellence as we do on the word perfect. And contrary to what a lot of people think, you can live a happy, well-meaning life without ever using the word perfect ever again. And too many of us just have this negative connotation to it. So seek excellence, but don't ever again believe that you find your value in perfection, in a higher level of performance. And for those of you that are leading teams, this is critical because of this problem in society. It's critical that you appreciate people for who they are, not only what they do. If all you do is award people and recognize people when they are performing at a high level, you are missing out on a lot of people that just need to feel good about themselves before they start performing at a high level. So when you appreciate somebody's value as a person first, what I know to be true about human nature is they tend to perform better. We love to perform better. So as a leader, distinguish between these two things, and you'll see a total difference in your team. I guarantee you. Now, let me share a story with you based on this exact point. Judy Geeson was somebody in Illinois that I worked with, and she said that one of her biggest ahas was really focusing only on what she can control and not all the other stuff that she can't control, right? And all the things that she used to think that she could control. As soon as she really only focused on what she could control and got rid of a lot of those other negative judgments, and got rid of all, the perfectionism and all that kind of stuff, or, got rid of a lot of it at least. I mean, her team exploded. I think that's what, 4 or 5 times her team. I think her team jumped by 4. It looks like 17 to 33, or to 73 rather. And her monthly production almost tripled, right? 3,600, almost $10,000, or over $10,000. And I love this last piece. What's the most important concept to Judy was that she realized the same mind that created the problem cannot solve the problem. So your mind is what created all these issues in the first place. And since it was created as a solution to the problem, it's going to be very difficult for that same mind with the same awareness to solve the problem on its own. If it could solve the problem on its own, it already would have. Right? Now, here's the last thing I'm going to jump into today, whenever you're listening to this, is the fear of success. This is a totally different animal. And this is the most dangerous one because it makes no logical sense whatsoever. It doesn't make any sense. The very thing we desperately want is the same thing that we are desperately trying to avoid in the same breath, right? At the exact same time. But most people have a fear of success. Now, fear of success, if you break it down, is always going to be a conflict between your idea of what success is and one or more of your values. Excuse me. So when success infringes on your values and you feel like you've got to sacrifice your values, then you're going to have a fear of success. I'll give you a couple examples. A lot of people think that success equals more hard work, or it means more responsibility, especially in the Mary Kay world. You become a director, that means you've got to be in charge now of getting all the all the rewards, and you've got to be doing your own meetings. And if you have any kind of fear of public speaking, that's not going to be exciting to you, of getting in front of the group. Or if you have fear of responsibility, that's not going to be exciting to you. So this is a really big issue that a lot of people are not aware of in the Mary Kay space, that more success is actually a negative at a deeper emotional level. Sometimes more success equals more exposure, like other people judging you. So if you've ever been around anybody and people are judging those that are ahead of them, that gets lodged in your emotional, memory. And you don't want to succeed only to have a lot of people talking bad about you too. Most of us don't want to do that. So we'd rather stay where we are so that we don't have all these people talking about us behind our back. That's another big one that a lot of people are not aware of. Or more time away from the family. That's a big one. Or just more time away from the things you really love to do. Another fear of success is specifically around money. We have a very unhealthy relationship to money in this society. A lot of people think money equals being selfish or being greedy or being a scoundrel or being unholy or unreligious on some level. That money will change who you are. It makes you a bad person. It makes people not like you. And any of those stories that you have in your head will stop you cold in your tracks, because you are more emotionally committed to all of these other things like safety and comfort and peace of mind than you are to success, especially when you've never experienced that level of success before. If you want to get into a Cadillac and you've never been into a Cadillac, then you don't have real experience to draw from. All you have is theory. You have people telling you what it feels like, but you don't have any real experience. But these other experiences are real. And your unconscious mind will almost all the time choose a real experience over a fake, made up, theoretical experience. So when you try to outweigh your real fears with made up success, it usually doesn't work very well. So you are unconsciously committed to protect yourself against all of these things that success means for a lot of people. Now, where does the idea and the definition of success and where do your values come from? They're from your beliefs. So I think you see a theme showing up here. Your beliefs are at the core of all of these formulas, all of these problems when we break them down. And these stories about success and money, those are your beliefs. When those stories get told over and over and over again, they get perpetuated, you find evidence for them, they become your beliefs. So again, if you want to get rid of the fear of success, you've got to change the beliefs that are creating the fear of success in the first place. Now, this is a form of fear of success, and this is really intriguing. A lot of people really wanted me to explain this more when I send the email out that said, "Are you actually afraid of hearing a yes?" And the truth is, a lot of people, maybe most people who've been in the business for a decent amount of time, maybe 6 months or longer, my experience is that most people are actually more afraid of a yes. Now, let me break this down. Remember, we fear the painful outcome of any event. We already talked about that when we broke down fears. We fear the outcome of an event. So here's the $1,000,000 question. Which one actually hurts more when you think about it? Is it when somebody says no to you and they never join your team and you never see them again and you have to deal with that rejection? Or is it when somebody says yes to you and they jump in the business and they get their inventory and they show up for months, but at some point in time along their journey, they stop returning phone calls, they stop showing up to the meeting, they quit, they join the witness protection program, and you now feel like they took a piece of you with them because you invested your time, your hopes, your expectations, and you feel disappointed. So in reality, which one of these actually hurts more? I want you to go ahead and answer this. Type this in so I can see if you're tracking the same way that I'm tracking. Because my experience is that most people actually have more irritation around people saying yes, jumping in, and then leaving and abandoning you than never getting in the first place. So if that's the case, at an unconscious level, your subconscious mind is actually more afraid of somebody saying yes, because if you trace those two paths, The path called yes has more potential pain on it. Now, that pain is all you're doing. And where does that pain come from? Your belief system. It's your belief that you don't have the leadership that would have kept them in the game, or that you're not good enough, or that you'll never succeed. It's these beliefs that cause the pain when somebody quits the business. That's the source of this whole problem. So once again, what's the solution? The solution is to clear away the beliefs that are causing this problem. But I want you to really get this piece. If you choose not to change the beliefs, if you choose not to uproot this problem, then the only thing you can do for the rest of your Mary Kay career is wrestle with the fear of yes. And at the same time, wrestle with the fear of no. That's called a lose-lose situation. So even if somebody says yes, you're going to be reserved because you don't want to feel disappointed. But the disappointment is a function of your expectations, which are created from your beliefs. It's all going to come down to your beliefs. So obviously, my suggestion is to clear yourself of all of these limiting beliefs that are causing all the problems. And let me tell you, many of you know Jim. You know, Jim has a very unique story. Jim was very successful a long time ago, and then he had some people do some dastardly things to him and a full-on character assassination because he got successful. So he was a classic example of somebody getting successful and then having a negative emotional response, and he retreated. And he'll tell you this. He retreated for years because he didn't want the spotlight that would lead to pain and failure, or not failure, but pain and misery. So he retreated. And he did some of this work. He cleared some of these limiting beliefs away. And as soon as he gave himself that permission to be himself again, and as soon as he cleared himself from those expectations and all the beliefs that were creating the problem in the first place, he now no longer had a fear of success. So the thing that had held him back for years couldn't hold him back. And shortly after he made some of these shifts, he had an unbelievable amount of people have a lot of these chargebacks, or it might have been actually before he made these shifts. But I mean, the number of chargebacks he had, I mean, the number of of uh, of challenges that he experienced on a personal level, on an external level, just life in general, like everything started to hit him. But when he made these shifts, he wasn't a victim of any of that negative energy anymore. And he came back and he just, got to work, and he immediately jumped back into his potential. His team exploded. He was the king of sales last year. Any of you that are in his seminar, you've seen him you've seen him on the king's chair, right? You've seen him on the seat. There's a word that I'm missing right there. I know it is the throne, right? And he ended up getting back into his Cadillac as well. So I just wanted to give an example of what you can do when you clear yourself of some of these issues that are creating the problems. Now, as we wrap up here, this is the most important lesson for you to get, is that your beliefs will determine your identities. They'll determine your drivers, your values, the definitions of what's painful and pleasurable, your definitions of right and wrong. They'll determine your head talk. They'll determine the choices you make. They'll determine the actions you take. And ultimately, because of all of this stuff, your beliefs will determine all of your results in your life and in your business. And you cannot outperform your beliefs because they are the roots to all of these things. Every step along the process of success has roots in your beliefs. So if you don't make that shift, if you have any attempt at any kind of behavioral change above the surface, think back to the iceberg analogy, without making a belief change below the surface, that attempt is doomed. You might get long-term or short-term success, but you will never have long-term success. Those magnets cannot stay together for any significant period of time unless you make the shifts at a deeper level. And I'll tell you what, this journey is, not only might it not be easy, it won't be easy in this game, but I'll tell you what, it will absolutely be worth it. And here's what we all have to experience. I mean, just look in the eyes of that little girl. I mean, look at the joy. Every single one of us looked just like that when we were mapping out our life, when we were mapping out your Mary Kay journey. There was a point in time you had so much desire and so much hope and so much dedication and so much commitment that nothing could get in your way. But over the course of time, things just started to get into your way. That's the human condition. That's the way it works. But what this journey is about is it's about getting back to that determination. It's about committing to that little girl. It's about taking a look at what's deep down inside of you. That's what I want you to focus on. I want you to focus on what were your little girl dreams? Or what were your little boy dreams for any of the men out there? And whatever you once had inside of you is raging inside still. It wants to get out. It needs to get out. You have to feel fulfilled on this journey. So this process is about tapping into that fire that has always been lit. Even if it feels like your fire burned out a long time ago, I guarantee you it hasn't. You just haven't been fanning the flames because of all this other stuff that has got your attention pulled in too many different directions. But when you get back in and you tap into that fire, you tap into the resources that your creator put inside of you, that are sitting inside of you right now, just ready to be ignited. That's what this journey is about. This is not about you becoming a different person. This is about you tapping into who you already are, who you always have been, and that strength inside of you that cannot be denied. And all of you women out there, you have a fight inside of you that us men don't even have. You know, imagine what a female does when her young are being threatened. There's a fight that comes out of the mama bear. There's a fight that comes out of the mama human, the mother, that absolutely cannot be denied. And you have that inside of you. And if you don't have goosebumps and a lump in your throat right now, then I don't know if I can help you, but I do, because we all have that piece inside of us. And it's about just tapping in to what's already there. You're not broken. There's nothing missing in your life. You are whole and complete as you are. You came with all the pieces. You've just got to put them together. You got to fan that flame, and you got to go for it. Because at the end of your life, it won't matter if you achieved any goal that you now have for yourself. You will long forget your 2013 July or June 30th goals. You won't care about that a few years from now, let alone at the end of your life when you look back. You won't care about the tangible things that you accomplished. You will not care about whether you actually achieved your dream or not. Here's what you're going to care about. The question you will ask yourself is, can you look yourself in the mirror, naked, not hiding anything at all, look yourself eye to eye and answer this question? Did I go for it? Did I take everything I had and bet it on myself and swing the bat? Did I go for it? Or did I cower from my pain, and did I choose to be more committed to my fears than I was to my dreams? And if you answer the question, you are more committed to your fears, that will be the most painful conversation you ever have with yourself. That's the clarity that I got when I almost died when I was 13 years old. And I've been afraid of that conversation ever since. That's what I want you to hold on to. It doesn't matter if you get it. It matters if you go for it. So I want all of you to commit to going for it. I don't want you to commit to the Cadillac. I don't want you to commit to the national sales director. I don't want you to commit to getting into DIQ. I don't want you to commit to anything tangible. I want you to commit to getting into the ring and going for it. And if you have that level of commitment and you're ready and willing to take a shot, then you cannot be held back. It doesn't even matter what you end up accomplishing. You cannot be held back, because that determination in the human spirit cannot be denied. And when you show up with that bold determination, all the forces of the universe, of your friends, of your God, of yourself, all of the mighty forces conspire in your favor if you show up with that bold determination that says, this is who I am, this is my dream, and I'm going for it. And you know what? I don't even care if you don't think I can get it, because I never asked you. You're either part of the steamroller or you're part of the pavement. I don't care which one you choose, but you cannot deter me from my purpose on this planet. You cannot deter me from what I'm here to do. You cannot deter me from what I am determined to accomplish. So get out of my way or support me. That kind of determination absolutely cannot be denied. So here's what I think. I think you've got two choices. You can continue on the path that most people are struggling on. You can continue to work on or work through or deal with or cope with the symptoms, all these behaviors, trying to fight an unconscious, illogical, and irrational emotional problem with consciousness, logic, and rational thought. Good luck with that one. I've never seen it work, yet I know plenty of people who are trying to be the first one ever. You cannot win an emotional battle with a logical fight. You can't solve an emotional problem with a logical solution. So here's what I think you get that I think you should do. I think you should roll your sleeves up. I think you should go for it. I think you should play that bigger game that you're meant to play. I think you should clear away anything that's in your way, all of those beliefs. I think you should get back to the beliefs that you once had when you were a little child, when all you wanted was everything that you wanted, and you didn't care what was in your way. If it meant you had to throw a tantrum in the middle of aisle 3 to get the cookies that are sitting on shelf number 4, you're going to do it. Because that's the level of determination you had. Once upon a time, you were learning to crawl and you fell down and you skinned your knees and you fell right on your face. And you didn't say, oh, well, I must not be meant to walk. Absolutely not. You had a desire, you had a dream, and you got back up and you went for it. You didn't care about how many times you fell off your bike. You stayed on the bike until you accomplished what you were there to accomplish, which was to learn how to ride the bike. What if you had that same level of determination and commitment and dedication and firepower with every goal that you have in your life? I dare anybody to get in your way. That's impossible. And then when you add to it a service mentality, that there are people on this planet right now who need what you have. They need the cure to their emotional and mental cancers. Most people are walking around in a trance of disempowerment, and you have a cure. How dare you keep that from them? Don't you dare keep this opportunity to unlock somebody from their nightmare. That's not yours to keep. That's not yours to judge who gets to know about it and who doesn't. How dare you prejudge like that? You've got to show up with a service heart with every ounce of your body. It's not your place to judge, but it's your obligation to share. And when you show up with that, it's impossible to feel like you've been rejected. It's impossible to feel like you've failed. It's impossible to feel like you're not good enough if you just show up to serve with every ounce of your God-created ability and God-created body and mind and spirit and soul. If you show up like that, everything we've been talking about cannot live. Perfectionism and service can't live together. Procrastination and service can't live together. When you get lit up, you don't need a deadline to tell you that you've got people to help, you've got people to serve. You don't need a deadline that has the end of the month on it. You don't need any kind of ego-driven accountability because you're here to serve, and you know when you need to serve? Now. Now's the time. When you're lit up with that kind of passion, now is the time. You don't need any deadlines to fulfill your purpose. And your purpose is to serve, and your purpose is to cure people of the ills that they have and the cancers that they have out there in society right now. Don't you dare keep that from anybody. That's the game you can play. And I suggest you choose wisely, because here's the choice that most people make. Most people, because they're more committed to convenience and they're more committed to their comfort and they're more committed to their fears and they're more committed to staying out of any kind of pain whatsoever, they commit to the first road. I'll just toe dip. I'll just work on it. I'll just do a little bit, but I won't commit. Are you kidding me? This is your life. You got one shot on this planet. Are you kidding me? Jump in. Swing the bat. Don't go into the water at the steps. Go into the deep end and do a cannonball into this thing and start swimming. I mean, what if you had that kind of zest for life, that kind of determination? If you're more committed to growth, and if you're more committed to challenge, and if you're more committed to change, and if you're more committed to your dreams than you are to your doubts, then you'll embrace everything that shows up on that second road. So choose accordingly. Now, when you choose to go for it, if this is sparking anything inside of you, take action. If you're choosing to go for it, then there are two ways that I can support you. There are two ways that I can support you going forward, and it's all about clearing yourself of these limiting beliefs. This is the journey that I went through. It's one of the very first things that I did when I became a coach is I put together a program that's designed to clear away the main problem. And so what I want you to do is I want you to attack every last one of your limiting beliefs. I want you to attack them. And these two programs can help you. The first one is called Releasing the Brakes. A lot of people feel like they've got the parking brake on, and you've got to release that thing. You've got to get out of your way so that you can chase with ferociousness every last one of your goals and dreams. Step up to your potential. Don't continue to hold your potential back like you're running with the parking brake on. And the other program that I have that will support you as well is called Emotional Mastery. Because when you learn how to truly master and control your emotions, there's nothing you can't do. There's no situation you can't navigate yourself through. And there's really, it's like you will then be getting into the driver's seat of your life when you have control of your belief system that we've just spent, over an hour talking about how it affects all of these surface level sabotaging behaviors. So if you're interested in jumping in and choosing road number 2 and you want our support, then this is the website you can go to. It's called pinkcaddiecoach.com/get rid of your fears. Should be pretty easy to remember. So if you're choosing the path to clear the issues so that the sabotage melts away, then I highly suggest to invest in yourself and invest in your future and let us support you however we can. The significant question is not what is the cost of taking action, although that's what people are going to think about. What's the price? What's it going to cost? What will I have to do? Will I have to put any work into it? Are you kidding me? We're talking about your life here. We're talking about the one shot that you've been gifted on this planet in this human form. Does it really matter? Honestly, does it really matter what the cost is going to be? I mean, think of it this way. What's going to happen when you no longer have the roots that's creating all the problems in the first place? What's going to happen when you create more balance in your relationships like Coty did? What's going to happen when you get out of the way of your business and you create some explosion in your growth like so many other people did? What will that feel like and what will that be worth? But here's the bigger question. The bigger question is, the more significant question is, what's the cost of not taking action? What's the cost of continuing down the same road, dealing with the same frustration, following a recipe that's not working? What's that cost? And whichever answer you give, act accordingly. Choose accordingly. So in a moment, I'm going to take you, actually, let me do this. Let me give you a little bit more details about this program. This is the website that I just gave you, pinkcaddiecoach.com. Get rid of your fears. These are the programs. The first one is Releasing Your Brakes. There's 4 CDs in this, and I want you to see what the CDs are. The first CD is called How to Take Rejection Personally and Build Your Confidence. Because a lot of people are trying to not take it personally, and I say take it personally, but just change the way you're taking it so you'll actually increase your confidence. The second CD is called The Biggest Hidden Obstacle, the Fear of Success. So I go deeper in a full hour-long CD about the fear of success. The next CD is How to Identify and Eliminate Your Limiting Beliefs. Again, it's deeper to what I've kind of scratched the surface with on this webinar, a lot more details. And the final CD is an audio coaching CD. It's called Erase the Waste. Erase the waste is the process that I went through, somebody took me through when I had my huge belief breakthrough in 2005. It's a guided visualization, it's a coaching program. So you put the CD in and you let me guide you through the process so that you can identify these beliefs and eliminate them. And here's the good thing about an audio coaching program: you can keep doing it over and over and over and over again if you want to. I've had clients say, every time I feel a limiting belief pop up, I just pull out Erase the Waste and I pop it in the CD and I clear it away. What would that be like if you had a tool to clear away the beliefs as they showed up in your life? This is the tool that you can use. It's a super powerful guided visualization that will help you get rid of the limiting beliefs as they come up, or just clear them all away. So it's a really, really powerful program. Erase the Waste itself sells for $49 online. I want this to be a no-brainer. You can tell how much passion I have about this. I'm red in the face right now. I'm breathing heavy like I just ran a half marathon, right? I'm passionate about this, and I'll be honest with you, I want you to invest in this. I absolutely totally do. Not because $39 is going to change my life, but because I know what happens when people do this work and the shifts that they can make. So if that level of freedom is worth the $39 price that we have on it right now, go for it. That's $10 less than the Erase the Waste by itself costs. So it's over 60% off. You're going to save $70. And I want this to be a no-brainer. And everything we sell always has a money-back guarantee. So if I don't deliver on the way I presented this program, if you don't like it for whatever reason, let us know. Inside of 30 days, let us know. We'll give you all your money back. No problem. I appreciate you trying it out. If it's not for you, it's not for you. So there's really no risk whatsoever. The only thing you have to lose is all of the restriction and the fears and the limiting beliefs. So that's Erase the Waste. It's a 4 CD program. You can get it right now for only $39 just by clicking on this link. I don't know if you can tell, but this is a clickable link that will take you right to where you can grab that. If you want the big daddy, if you want everything, if you want it all, take a look at Emotional Mastery. That has 12 CDs in it. Your CDs are basically, we're hammering emotional control from a bunch of different perspectives and a bunch of different angles. So one CD talks about the power of authenticity. Another CD is about high intention, low attachments, one of the most powerful concepts you will ever learn and implement in your life. I promise you, high intention, low attachment. Another CD is called the Strategy Session. It teaches you how we form our behavior strategies and how to get more control there. Another CD is called Getting Rid of Guilt. Guilt is one of the things that absolutely holds so many people back, especially parents. You got mommy guilt or daddy guilt. That's a huge, huge piece. So you got to clear that up. Another CD, Stop Trying to Be Comfortable, or Stop Trying to Get Comfortable Being Uncomfortable. We have this idea that that's the name of success. Just get comfortable being uncomfortable. Nobody wants to be uncomfortable. So I'd rather you change the definition of what comfortable is instead of just trying to put two magnets together that don't attract each other. Another CD is called Taming Your Triggers. It's about looking at all the different anchors that you have, all the catalysts that you have in your life that unconsciously start like this row of dominoes getting knocked over. We've got to know where those dominoes are, and we've got to intentionally create a better path, right? The next CD is all on the pain pleasure principle. So I'll go much deeper in how we create pain, how these show up in our behaviors and our strategies and all that stuff. So each one of these CDs is at least an hour of deep, deep content with each one of these angles. The next CD is called The Art of Reframing. I didn't even touch on that at all today on this call, but it's how do you change the judgments that you have on the events that you can't control going forward so you avoid all the negativity instead of trying to fix the negativity. Other CD, this is one of my favorites that I've ever done, is What to Expect from Your Expectations. All of our disappointments are created by the expectations that we place on ourselves and others. When you get rid of your expectations, especially the ones of other people, you will get rid of all disappointment. It's impossible to get disappointed when you don't have any expectation to be offended. Expectations unmet is the recipe for disappointment. Next CD, How to Build Your Confidence and Self-Esteem. I split apart what confidence is and what self-esteem is because they're actually different. Confidence is how you feel about yourself. I'm sorry, self-esteem is how you feel about yourself. Confidence is how you feel about your abilities. Most people don't have confidence problems, although they think they do. Most people have self-esteem problems, although they don't think they do. They think that these two things are the same. And when you lump them together, you're off target. The other CD is called Controlling Your Emotions. It's this whole process of judgments and behaviors and how can you get into that process and really intentionally control it. And then you've got another audio coaching CD in this package as well. It's called Anchor Your Success. This is another guided visualization you can just pop in and listen to whenever you want, and it'll help you create positive, empowering anchors so that when you need to feel confident, you can just dial up confidence in your body. When you need to feel happy, you can dial up happiness in your body. It's a really, really powerful process called anchoring that you can do with that particular CD. So Emotional Mastery on its own, it's a 12 CD program. The original price is $269 on that. Each one of our CDs sells online for 20 bucks, and the audio coaching program is $49. So all together, if you buy them separately, it would be a $269 program. On this website, because you went to this webinar and you answered my emails, and I honor that and I appreciate that for you, you can get it for 89 bucks. I mean, it's 2/3 off. You're gonna save $180 for 89 bucks. You get that whole 12 CD set. Now, if you're in at that level, just get it all for $6 more. Like you get both sets. You'll get Erase the Waste. You'll get all the other 4 sets in Releasing the Brakes, and you'll get Emotional Mastery. So you get 16 CDs, and this will attack your limiting beliefs. It will give you everything you need to know about how to control yourself emotionally. For less than 100 bucks, take a shot and see how your life can absolutely transform when you go through over 20 hours of training at your leisure, at your comfort level. You can listen to it over and over and over again for as long as you want. What could happen in your life if you literally had the tools to erase the obstacles that are inside of you holding you back? So that's the opportunity that you have. As I said, it's a 30-day, no questions asked, money back guarantee. Here's my message to you on this page. You were created to do something special on this planet, in this life. You have that in you. Do not let your fears that were created by humans doing human things and the brain working, do not let your human fears get in the way of God's assignment for you. You came down to this planet with an assignment. Everything that I've been talking about, all these fears, all these limiting beliefs, they poison that assignment. Do not let that happen to you. Do everything you can to get out of your way. Commit to that assignment. You're obligated to fulfill that assignment as best you possibly can. Oh, excuse me. Okay, so the way to get a free recording is send me an email to sean@pinkcaddiecoach.com with the subject line recording please, and I'll shoot you over a link to get the recording when it's ready. And finally, if you want to continue the conversation, stay plugged into our community, you can go to our Mary Kay Only blog, as I mentioned before, pinkcaddiecoach.com. We've got articles and audios and videos to help you in your life and your business. On Facebook, you can go to facebook.com/pinkcaddiecoach. We've got an amazing community, over 10,000 strong, and super supportive and lively and vibrant. It's just a lot of fun over there. And if you are the Twitter type, you can go to twitter.com/again, Pink Caddie Coach. So I hope there was something valuable in this webinar for you. I hope you continue to stay plugged into our community, and we'll be coming to you real soon. Take care, everybody.